No. Those in the back. Big, most of the people are here.
We haven't confirmed that. It's going to be
23rd.
But you did come out. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I
then,
haven't seen this in email yet today because I can't.
Yeah. 4:30.
was that before council?
Yeah, before council.
Yeah, before the next council.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we were
Yeah.
awesome.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
4:30.
Okay.
Chris, does that work for you? Finance before city council meeting?
Yeah, that's like the 23rd or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
4 o'clock or 4:30.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't make a difference to me.
It doesn't matter.
Time is 7 o'clock, and we'll call to order the meeting for May 9th, 2016. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Keller? Here. Mr. DeGenova?
Here.
Mr. Rohr?
Here.
Mr. Hellinger?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Here. Item 2 is invocation, which we led tonight by Chris Jones, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please stand.
We'll bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering tonight, that we can come together as a community to make the best decisions for all of our neighbors. Lord, we do pray that at some point we will see summer. And Lord, we always pray for our safety forces. We keep them safe. And Lord, as always, I ask that everyone here tonight gets to their next destination safely. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Item 4 is the approval of the motion summary of the regular meeting of council held April 25th, 2016, as recorded and transcribed. What is the wish of council?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary for the Civil Service Commission meeting held February 3rd, 2016. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary for the 2016 Charter Review Commission meeting held April 14th, 2016. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary for the Historic Preservation Commission meeting held March 23rd, 2016. Item D, acceptance of the motion summary for the Shade Tree Commission meeting held March 22nd, 2016. Item E, acceptance of the motion summary for the Airport Commission meeting held April 21st, 2016. Item F, acceptance of the motion summary for the Planning Commission meeting held April 6th, 2016. Item G, resolution number 16-18, a resolution authorizing the city manager to participate in the cooperative purchase of road salt through the Ohio Department of Transportation winter salt purchase contract.
Thank you. What is the wish of council on the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr? Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 6 is time set aside for letters, petitions, or public comments for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward at this time? Seeing none. Item 7 is committee reports. Mr. Jones, do you have anything?
I have none, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
We have a opening on Planning Commission that I was hoping that we could work to fill as soon as possible before we get some big cases coming up.
Okay, I think Lee had put that out on the Facebook or someplace recently, so I'll check on that and see if we have anybody that needs to be interviewed.
Okay,
Thank you.
let me know if I can help with that at all.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. DeGenova?
Finance Committee is going to meet on May 23rd, Monday, prior to our meeting around 4:30.
Okay. Mr. Wood? Mr. Hellinger?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Schaefer?
Parking and safety meets next Monday, the 16th, 7 o'clock.
Okay. And I have nothing, I don't know where my head is right now, so we'll just keep moving on. Been a crazy day so far. Okay, item 8 is consideration of a liquor permit. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Item A, AMVETS Post 0102 at 485 Park Avenue and Patio, Delaware, Ohio, 43015, permit class D5.
Thank you. Chief Kujawski, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. For consideration is a request for a liquor permit. This is at AMVETS Post 102, which is on Park Avenue. This is for a D5 permit. My understanding from the report is that they are going to be absorbing another service organization and also want to be able to have private parties and at the club, and they'll continue to maintain their private status. So you'll still have to be a member to drink there, but the D5 permit will allow them to rent themselves out to private parties. This is a fairly typical arrangement with the D5 permit according to liquor control, and the Delaware Police Department could find no reason to request a hearing or to object to this permit.
Okay. Any questions for Chief?
I move for approval of the liquor permit.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Keller, a second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries. You said you have any objection?
Yes, I have an introduction to make tonight. We have with us Mitchell Schneibly. Mitchell is a junior at Ohio State in the John Glenn School, and if you'd like to come forward, but he's been shadowing for the last couple of weeks and will be an unpaid intern in our office, in the city manager's office this summer, and he'll start his work with us next week, and he's already helped us out in a number of different areas with different projects and things. Mitchell, do you want to say a few words?
I'm really looking forward to this experience. It's going to be a great summer, and I'm looking forward to get a lot of good work done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For all your help.
Okay. What's that?
I think Chief said free.
Anyway, you'll be seeing more of Mitchell throughout the summer. Thank you.
And then item 9 is presentation, advanced infrastructure, or AMI. And Brad, if you want to come forward at this time and bring your guests with you or whatever you're.
I just want to make a couple of just brief comments. We have the whole team here tonight to review with City Council the Advanced Meter Infrastructure Project, which really started over a year and a half ago. There's been a lot of work on the part of the city staff to make a recommendation on an agreement that is on my desk ready to be signed, but I wanted to provide City Council and by extension the community with an overview of how the program is going to work, the benefits that I think residents will see, and just the improvement that we're going to have in this important service that we provide. So with that said, I'll let Brad introduce the team, and we'll get started here.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mayor and Council. As Tom mentioned, this has been a very thorough and extensive process over the last year and a half. We tried to keep council as up to date as possible during our committee meetings on the work and progress that has gone into achieving our goal of getting an AMI system implemented in the city of Delaware. Happy to report after this process, we believe and we know we've selected the best team that's out there. We did bring them here tonight to introduce them to City Council. We have the entire project partner here team, including staff from CH2M Hill, the engineering firm that provided us with the functionality assessment, the request for proposal, and our contract negotiations with our selected vendor. We have representatives from EJ Prescott, our service provider, Mueller System, the vendor that was selected, and Keystone Utility Systems. They'll be doing the installs of approximately 8,000 outside meter pit locations. City staff, headed up by Perry Mickley, will be doing the MIU installs for the inside meters. Part of this presentation, we have just about a half dozen slides, just kind of go through the next steps, the technology, public notification. Then we have a quick YouTube video that actually will show the customer portal that our residents will be able to access as part of this to keep track of their water consumption, any possible leaks they may have, and can set up alerts for their budget and water usage. So therefore, ask any questions you have anytime. We did save time at the end of the PowerPoint for questions, but I'd like to introduce Josh Bramham from CH2M Hill that will start the presentation, and then we'll go on to, we have some city staff here that will talk about technology. We can show some examples of the MIU and our meters. Mueller's will talk based on the technology, and then we'll go into the customer portal YouTube video.
Thank you, Brad.
You pull the microphone. Yeah, there you go.
And then for the record, if you could give your name and address.
Of course, my name is Josh Brayman. I'm with CH2M. My work address is 125 South Wacker Drive in Chicago, Illinois.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you mind hitting the next slide, please? That is
You
great.
have the clicker.
Amazing, thank you. So we've come a long way, as Brad has mentioned, over the past few months, and we really have a great team in place. And at this point, we are ready to execute the contract and issue notice to proceed to EJP, who Delaware will hold the contract with. There's some key tests that happen before a single installation ever occurs, and this is really the critical couple of months before these projects really fully begin, and this is really important to make sure they're successful, that all these things are done prior to any installations. There's about 6 key items, the first of which is developing the interfaces and the testing of these interfaces. When we talk about interfaces, this is really the data link between the system collecting the reads in the field and making sure those reads are usable for billing, making sure those reads are usable for customers to go online and check their usage. It's really an important IT step, and it's important to make sure we have IT involved from day one. Once these meters are upgraded, they communicate over a network. And really, we make sure that network is built ahead of time before any installations occur. So as soon as that first installation happens, we're able to get those reads automatically, basically the next day. Before any installations begin, it's our job to make sure that any city staff is trained on how to operate the software, make sure they are trained on how to answer any calls from elected officials and from customers. Adding on to that, it's also our job to make sure that yourselves and customers fully understand what this system will entail, setting expectations, and they have the ability to receive communication materials ahead of the upgrade and after it's complete. This will ensure they can, and there'll be more self-serving options, and they can address any questions. There's some initial equipment ordering that's already getting ready to move forward, and this is to make sure we have the equipment before installations begin. And then lastly, before any of the installations begin, we have to make sure we have sequence installations. So we're moving through town in a planned area. We're not just running all over the west side and the east side and the north side and the south side. We basically go on a route by route deployment sequence, and that's really a key principle to our deployment strategy. Next slide.
Next slide will be done by Mike Storm from Mueller Systems, and Perry Mickley from the city staff will talk about the technology and installation overview.
Mike, if you wouldn't mind giving us your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. My name is Mike Storm. I'm with Mueller Systems, and my address is 10210 Statesville Boulevard, and that's in Cleveland, North Carolina. It's the other Cleveland.
The warm one.
Yeah.
Perry Mickley with the Public Utilities Department. So go ahead, Mike.
Okay, great. So I was going to do just a brief overview of the technology and what AMI is and some of the benefits that both the city and the residents of Delaware will see once this technology is installed. And then I believe Perry was going to talk a little bit about the soft start that we're going to put in place here. So basically, an advanced metering infrastructure, AMI system, is a communication network that we deploy throughout the city of Delaware that will communicate with the water meters in the residents and commercial properties. There's going to be a series of collectors hung throughout the footprint of the city. The collectors will communicate with a radio device that will be attached to the water meters in the city of Delaware. About 8,000 or so are located in pits, and I believe the intent is going to try to incorporate the existing water meter so we can utilize that existing asset. And we're going to just retrofit the radio to that. And the indoor sets, we may do some meter and radio change out. Those radios read the meters hourly. They transmit that radio reading, that hourly reading, up to the collector. The collector then transfers the information to a server. At the server, the data is interfaced with City of Delaware's billing software, so meter readings and bills can be generated and sent out. But also, we offer that data to the City of Delaware employees so they can do a lot more than just bill a customer. Because this data is so granular, it's hourly, you can really get a look at people's consumption, issues that you may be having with the city's distribution network. If a customer has a leak, let's say a toilet starts to leak, you'll know within a few hours that you're having a continuous flow, whereas today you won't know until 30 days or 60 days whenever you got to read the meter. So it's very proactive, it's very customer friendly. We also have a web portal, and we have a video on that we will show that will allow your customers to access their own individual accounts. They can manage their consumption, they can set budgets, they can set thresholds to be alerted via text or email if some abnormality happens. If their meter, let's say they go away for 3 months in the winter time and they're not expecting any consumption. Well, if consumption happens on that meter, they can get a text alert and find out what's going on. Did somebody, tap into their pipe? Did they have, and this is common in the north, a pipe break, and they find out pretty immediately before a basement's all flooded and a lot of damage can happen. So in a nutshell, the AMI system is giving a lot more than meter reading. It's giving that granular data that in the meetings that we've had with Perry and Brad and his staff and Josh, a lot of good things Delaware is looking at using this data for. So we've been doing this for a couple of years now with Delaware. We're excited to be at this point, and we're honored to be in your consideration. Thank you.
Questions?
Yes.
So that goes down inside the existing meter pits, is that the idea?
That's correct. That's correct.
I can hit that a little bit more.
Microphone, please.
Yep, sorry.
That's the external one.
Yeah. All right. So basically what we have is the MIU or the MyNode. This is the radio unit. This would be the new meter if it was changed out. I actually have one of those.
You got toys everywhere, don't you?
Yeah, I did. Sorry. It's show and tell. So in a pit installation, this is what would be attached to this unit. This would go into the lid, just like the pit pad that we have there now. It looks like
That was
this.
the question, how it transmitted to that.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. We're using our gun here. This is how we get the reads now. So instead of doing that, we'll have this.
Can you call it something besides a gun? 'Cause
I know, I'm sorry. Probe's not good either, so. Is it wand? Okay, we'll go with wand. So anyhow, this would slide up in, and then it's just a quarter turn into this, and that's what holds it up in. This is actually probably the best design that I've seen that holds one of these up in there, because potentially with lawn mowers and traffic and things like that beating on the lid, that this could fall out, then you're not getting your reading, then you have to send somebody out to see what's going on. So, but I had actually put one of these on. I'm not going to do it now because it's very difficult to get back off. So this would be a brand new unit, and we could put this in a pit. New installation for new home, this is what they would receive. On an existing home, you would have a meter similar to this one. It's an encoded meter. It's down inside the pit. Basically, just all we have to do is access the 3 wires here. We would have a MyNode. We'd access those 3 wires. It would be potted together with gel caps and then installed, actually there's a gel cap here on this one, and then installed into a pod to help with that waterproof and water resistance, so we don't have any problems with those electronics. I'll pull this beast out. This is actually one we found about a month ago. That because of where we're at today, sometimes we don't have the best information available, and this is the meter that we found. This one's probably about 60 years old, would be my guess. This was actually retrofitted with the clicker unit on top. So here, you probably heard the clicker unit that we talked about before. This is the one, if you have the odometer on the outside of your house, this is the meter that you would have. So there's no direct connection to the meter unit or that clicker. This has to build up a pulse prior to sending it out to that clicking unit. So what would happen with these, a lot of times your outside read would be different than your inside read, because this has to build that pulse up to send that out. With the wand, you don't have that because you interrogate the meter head itself. So again, it's this similar meter. We're currently actually purchasing these, putting them in new homes, but instead of having the radio unit, we hook it up to the pit pad. It's still got the analog dial and everything. It's still an encoded meter, no different than the one I had up here earlier. And then the only difference between this one and the brand new one is this actually has a digital readout in it. And you can get, again, if you want to call it granular data, but this will help out with leak detection, because this will get down to, if I remember right, the hundredth of a cubic foot. So that would help tremendously with trying to determine what type of leak it is. And there's been many times I'll go out to a house and, you know, they'll have a high bill, and I think Kim can help me with that. But I've never had a problem going into somebody's house and determining that where the leak was. I've found them in toilets. I've found them in ice makers. Just about even outside yard hydrants. Somebody had left something over the winter on, it had frozen, broke, and then when springtime came, it thawed out and started running again. Like we had talked about earlier, as far as the leak detection, two different ways. That over time, or a long extended period of time, this will be able to detect that leak, send you out some message. But at the same time, it'll go the opposite way. If you have a sudden hard flow, like it's flowing 25 gallons a minute for a certain extended period of time, you're going to get an alert, which would be the pipe burst side of it. So you have the low flow side of that leak detection, and you could get it with this meter head or this one. It's really built all into the node and collecting that data, or you can get the high flow. So both ways. And, you know, I think it was probably 2 years ago, OWU had their building flood, and the guy had just, you know, security officer had just been there. There wasn't a problem, but he comes back on his next round and there's water everywhere. So something like that could have been notified pretty quickly if there was a problem with a system like this.
So you have
Go ahead.
two different ones there. Which one, I mean, one's digital, one's not. Which one are you installing in houses today?
This one today, this would be our new install. And the reason for that, Mayor Riggle, is that the wand doesn't work with this one. So I can't buy this and hook a pit pad up to it and use it. So we're kind of in that transition stage. So I have to purchase this right now just for my new installs. And if we have a meter go bad right now, this is what we would use. But this will hook up to this once we're done. So there's no change out to this meter. Like they had talked about earlier, we're going to try to use as many of our existing meters that we possibly can to save, you know, money and funds. But if we're inside a house and that meter is 10 years old or older, we plan on removing that meter and replacing it with a new one. Or if it's had a lot of usage through it, 1,700 cubic feet of water. So any questions, more questions about the technology?
I have a few.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have questions about the data. You said that the machine would gather at one time per hour. Is that correct?
Yes,
So-
the radio goes down and reads the register head once an hour.
So then that would be obviously 24 times a day for each household. So where does all that get stored? And how long does that get stored for?
Good question. So the normal operation of the system is this radio would go down and read it once an hour for 24 times, and then it sends that packet of data once a day up to the collector and then on to the server. This can store up to 170 days worth of that. So if there happened to be some sort of power outage and you couldn't make connection for some reason, it would backfill the data in the server. You do have the ability to make this radio report more than once a day. You could do it up to every 15 minutes. And there's reasons for that. If you wanted to, without getting too technical, right size a meter, maybe you wanted to, is this the right size meter? Is it too big of a meter? You want to get reads every 15 minutes so you can get a better idea of their flow habits. So you could set that radio to read every 15 minutes. But by default, we do it once a day, and that seems to work very well.
Okay, and then my other concern is there any privacy concerns about who might get access to that data at some point in the future? I mean, do you foresee courts subpoenaing records of, were people home? What was their water usage? I mean, do you foresee any issues regarding that with legal?
No, anything new, there's always questions brought out and kind of worst case scenarios looked at. And when AMI was first introduced, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, there were a lot of those concerns. But as far as the data goes, it's highly secure. The radios themselves transmit on a private 900 megahertz frequency that only can communicate with City of Delaware assets. So it's not like somebody could, take a receiver off from Radio Shack and make it work to intercept people's data. So I don't think it should be a concern. It's all encrypted and all secured.
Do we have a policy if someone were to request it?
Well, I guess that would go back a little bit to what we have now. So now we have a read every 30 days, half the city, the other half. So I would assume, this is a question maybe for Darren, if someone decided to ask for reads and consumption from anybody in the city of Delaware, if they could do that now.
Yeah, we'd probably give that out.
Okay.
I think what Councilwoman's talking about is court might want to be able to approve, some attorney might want to approve that the client was actually there, so they want real-time reads, whereas opposed.
No, I know. I was going to
there's no time frame there that you can do with the 2-month read. But
So
you could if it was had regularly.
Right.
Excuse me, we've had occasions where courts have asked for that record. It is public information. They have requested that information in terms of water usage to determine if they've been home or not, even with our existing system. So it is part of the public information, and courts can request that.
So when you say part of public information, then anyone could request it?
Yeah, I mean, Darren might want to step up, but yeah, it's public information, so if they make a public request, the courts or whoever, that we have to provide that information.
Yeah, that's the part that I
Now,
have.
what's the consumption of my house? How does that become public?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily public information.
It is public, it's not confidential for your tax information is. Someone could come in tomorrow and make a records request on how much water you used over the last 5 years at your house. It's public information. And not that occurs, I can't recall too many times that they do, but it isn't one of those records that is considered confidential. We would have to disclose it. Well, it doesn't even have to be the court. It could be just anybody making a records request.
The kinds of things that are prohibited to give out, as Dean alluded to, are social security numbers, bank account information. We don't give out medical information, things of that nature, but there's nothing privileged about how much water you're using. It wouldn't be that hard to come up with a government-related reason why someone would have an access to that. We hear all the time about people having broken lines and the water bill goes really high up, and so we have to go in and fix it. So those are kind of things that the public might want to know about as to why they might want to look at a water bill from somewhere.
Okay, I guess I have some lingering concerns about collecting data one time per hour and then having that be available to anyone who might request it. That is a concern to me. The other issue is it the city's liability to notify customers if they have a water leak, or will it be the customer's responsibility to have some type of alert set up? What I'm wondering is, someone says, well, I had a water leak, but I didn't know because I didn't check the system. Aren't you supposed to tell me now that you have these meter readers?
So the system, basically there's two pieces of software. There's the utility portion that the City of Delaware assigns whoever within the water department or government to monitor. And then there's the consumer portal. The consumer portal has the ability to show residents, hey, you have a potential leak, but it's up to the city's discretion whether they want to do that or not. Most utilities that deploy this, they offer that as a courtesy, but let's say this resident has a leak, someone at Delaware will be alerted, and it's up to the water department, but typically they would alert the customer as well as having the software give a flag.
How does it know if it's leaking as opposed to I'm watering my lawn?
There's algorithms built inside of this, and it takes usage, past history. In the beginning, we have to put in some figures based on, what they've used the past year. But once the system's up and running, takes a look at their average consumption and also the time of year. July, they might use more water than January. So these algorithms figure, okay, there's a threshold that it most likely shouldn't hit. And if it goes over and above X amount, then there's potentially a leak. So it alerts you to it.
A lot of times with the small, I'm sorry, I might create regular systems. I don't know.
Can you pick them up?
No.
You have to come to the microphone,
Yeah.
sorry.
I probably should have just stayed quiet. But I was just going to say, when you talk about a small leak, it's a,
Name and address, sorry.
I'm sorry,
You should go yell at me.
Mike Pace, 32811 Sorrento Lane, Avon Lake, Ohio.
Thank you.
So, the cold Cleveland, yes. So I was just going really quick, the leak is more of a continuous, not just over a 2-hour period that you would water your lawn, but over 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. So there's a threshold on there. So if your water's running consistently for 48 hours, it's probably not watering your lawn. So we don't want to have, put out a bunch of alarms that false positives that these are all leaks. So we can set those parameters. It comes in with a standard parameter, but we can adjust those according to what the city would like to have. So, when you have, it's more of a long-term water usage. If that, I just want to clear that.
Okay.
More questions? Okay.
I have a kind of follow-up question. So if it only actually downloads the data once a day, if you've got a major pipe burst, is there some system that's going to let us know earlier than that?
So there's two sets of alarms, one that are standard and others that are urgent. So if it sees a pipe burst or, the city defined how you want these alerts. So if it sees a critical alert or an urgent alert, it's going to do it immediately. It's going to upload it. What happens is, depending, like backflow, for instance, this thing will alert you if the meter's going backwards. There may be a part of town that, just based on the pressure, meters run backwards quite a bit. And if it was an urgent alarm, you would get a lot of alerts that are probably just working the way your system is designed. So you may want to turn them off in that part of town. But there's another part that doesn't get a lot of backflow, so you want to know immediately. So Perry and Brad will say, well, let's put an urgent alarm on that. So once we get into this project and get moving on it, we'll be able to pinpoint what alerts are urgent and what aren't. But they're totally configurable, which ones you want immediately and which ones you want on a daily basis.
So if you get an alert that there's been a pipe burst, is there like a response to turn the water off, or how would that work?
And again, that's where we're in that process in our project to determine those details when we get to that point. Again, we could go out and turn the water off if we find out that there's a leak at that system where you would need that to happen. Could be just, again, it's configurable to the node and the user, because the hospital, at one point in time could just start using a lot of water because they got a lot of people in the beds and whatnot. So you'd have to, kind of look at it from a response.
And wouldn't this, and maybe this is more for Darren, but I think kind of what we're tiptoeing around here is there any type of legal responsibility from the city that if we don't see if there's a leak and we don't identify it, then we're somehow liable? But in that case, I mean, what we're doing, it's basically a courtesy to our customers. We would not be liable if we missed a red flag on somebody's burst pipe, would we, Darren?
Well, I can tell you that you probably wouldn't be liable. With that said, anyone can sue for anything, and there is kind of a school of thought that if you have the information and you don't do anything with it, you might have some culpability. For example, if we were to scope the sewer lines and notice that our line is all bad and we don't fix it and then it backs up into someone's sewer, sometimes we are responsible for that. So I can't guarantee that we wouldn't be liable, but I don't think it generally would be that we're accepting liability for that. Is that fair, Jackie, risk manager?
Yeah, that's fair. And again, you have that option also to sign up for yourself. So I think that's part of probably in the old technologies, there wasn't anything like that. And they've kind of learned from their errors or their ways. And now they give that access to the customer as well to take some of that responsibility on as well. And, as far as our ordinances and things like that, it does talk about private piping, and anything inside that house is private piping. We wouldn't have any liability in that plumbing.
And as Dean just mentioned, it doesn't change anything from what we have now because we still have the bills. So this doesn't increase our risk of that. It's just a faster information, but we still have if we notice the usage comes up, now we have that same risk. So
it's just 60 days later.
Yeah,
when
and it's worse.
The basement's completely flooded by then.
Any other questions for Mike or Perry? Okay.
I have one more about the data. So then it's stored, you said, for 170 days, then what happens after that?
So the radio can store the data up to 170 days, but on a daily basis, when it gets put onto the server, now the server starts building a history for each account. So it will store live up to 2 years. Now, we've had some conversations in previous meetings. We might potentially change up to 3 or 5 years live data, and then archive the rest. We haven't, to my knowledge, officially decided which we're going to do, but we're somewhat flexible with that.
And that live data, you have to have that for the customer to be able to use the portal. If it's not there, if it gets archived, once it's archived, that customer can't go back and see their information.
So then once it's archived, do we have to continue to pay for it to be stored somewhere? If it's a public record, then it can't be destroyed for how many years?
Well, it depends on the record, but that's just the reading from the meter. Our billing system will actually track what they're billed for. So we'll have that reading in our billing software. What do we have now? We've got 92, so we keep this for quite some time.
Okay. So we won't need to pay for long-term storage of this?
Where it comes in, it's a yearly.
Yeah, well, most utilities are utilizing it today with their billing, some sort of storage, so they just keep it that way. So they don't actually store our readings because they have it with the billing software, but it is available if you needed it.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Do I need to restate my name? Okay. There's one item on the last slide I just want to touch upon. It was the first bullet. It was a 500 to 600 point soft start. Now, this is really important. When I was up here earlier, I talked about some of these 5 or 6 key items that need to happen before we say, okay, ready, go. The 500 to 600 point soft start is to make sure we're ready to start this project across 11,000 or 12,000 accounts. It's our chance not just to test the AMI technology that's been around for 10 years, and it's definitely proven itself with the battery life, the ability to transmit the interval reads, but it's also the opportunity for us to test our internal procedures. Are we communicating with the customers the way we expected? Are we able to handle the customer calls as expected? And once that soft start is complete, then it's okay to move forward with the rest of the project. So I just wanted to stress that one point. Okay, so this is probably one of the biggest projects that your utility customers are going to see. And these are really 20-year-long pieces of technology that you're putting in, and everyone has a water meter, so a lot of people can relate to this type of technology. Now, it has a lot of benefits that the team has talked about, but it's really important that everyone understands the benefits and can answer questions. So this group, the elected officials, will certainly be made aware of what is AMI, what are the common questions. We'll create a set of FAQs for you to answer any common questions, but we'll also designate probably a city expert, it may be Perry, who can handle the really tough questions in case you can't handle it yourselves. Some of this background information and FAQs, we recommend that you post online at your website, and we have examples of past information that can be made available. Again, you are not the first city to undergo a project like this. There have been many others. A lot of these questions, we know exactly what customers are going to ask. We can help you prepare for those answers. Our job is to help educate you. Before any customer is upgraded, they receive a letter in the mail about 2 weeks roughly prior to the upgrade that says, here's this project, this is what AMI is, this is what you can expect, here's some of the benefits like leak detection that you should be made aware of that are available after the upgrade is complete. After that upgrade is done, a door card will be left. Now that's really important because you have a mix of indoor and outdoor meters. Now customers who have an outdoor meter, they may not even know the installation takes place. It's like 20 minutes, and if it's an endpoint only job, a MyNode only job, the water won't even be disconnected in that period of time. They could be home using the water, they won't know any other way. So a door card will be left after the upgrade is complete. Now, shortly thereafter, the customer can basically go online and they can access their daily and hourly intervals once they register. Once that process is complete, they can enroll in the leak detection and the leak notification, and we can make a policy if we want that to be an auto enrollment or if we want to just educate customers on they have this option to go online and do this at no charge, and they can sign up for it. So that'll be a policy decision that we work with utility on. Yes, please. Come on up. Thank you for reminding me.
So I do have to say, I went to Ohio State and I love the Thurman burger, so I'm looking forward to the First Fridays. But no, so it's our understanding that you guys have the First Fridays kind of community event. You know, one of the things that, so we just implemented this system last year in Maumee, Ohio, and they have a Maumee Days. It's only a 2-day event, but we got a little booth and we had the portal up, and I wasn't sure how many people were going to come by, but we actually had a lot of people come by and wanted to take a look at how this worked and answer some of the questions about, you know, security and so forth. So it's our intent to attend some of those and, you know, help educate the folks on this and, you know, be part of the community with this. So
the last thing I want to mention before we show the YouTube video of the web portal is this is probably one of the first projects that you're implementing that has an added customer service for the first time in a long time. It's kind of the water department's job to get an accurate bill out, to get safe water out, but for the first time now you're giving them a new service, daily access to daily and hourly reads, access to potential leaks, and helping them control their own water usage. So I think these are really exciting projects. They have a lot of customer service benefits. So I opened Chrome at the bottom and set the video all up for you. So all you have to do is hit play if you minimize the screen.
I don't think that one work.
Yep. And just hit play.
Important features is a web-based consumer portal known as My
Back up 10
Data,
seconds.
which you can. Your ability to conserve water and understand your water bill is important. That's why we're leveraging the MyNet Euler infrastructure network for utilities. The MyNet system is an advanced metering infrastructure technology that allows us to more efficiently monitor our water infrastructure and provide you with better customer service. One of the system's important features is a web-based consumer portal known as My Data, which you can access to easily monitor your water consumption, compare your water usage with previous periods, set a budget and conservation goals, and learn about different ways you can conserve water.
My Data's interactive user interface includes easy-to-read graphs that display your current and historical water consumption levels. These graphs enable you to view your water usage in monthly, weekly, daily, even hourly increments based on data that's collected and stored by your water meter. With just a few clicks, you can view information regarding frequently asked billing questions and compare your usage to previous billing cycles in order to better estimate usage costs before receiving your bill, understand your water consumption changes over time, and identify usage inconsistencies which are sometimes symptoms of potential water leaks on your property that may be losing water you're unknowingly billed for. Not only can you use My Data to better understand and monitor your water use, you can also use it to establish budget and conservation goals. You can even elect to receive automated email alerts whenever your consumption levels start to exceed these goals.
As you can see, our decision to use the advanced metering infrastructure creates a win-win scenario. It improves our ability to manage our water infrastructure, and it gives you the tools you need to help conserve water and better understand how your water consumption affects your bill.
To learn more about My Data, please call 419-897-7126.
I think at this time we have just a slide on questions, but if there's any other questions from the group. Yes. Oh, Kim. We wanted to give you a chance to, I think, just talk for a second about what you have today and how this could potentially affect your operation.
All right.
Hi, I'm Kim Johnson. I'm utility supervisor. I appreciate the opportunity to sit here and answer any questions or let you know what I feel this can do for our department. I think the first thing, you're putting knowledge in your customers' hands. It's there for them, and it's going to help them greatly, like she said, manage their consumption much better. The first thing from utility standpoint, we hear all the time the estimations that these people get on their bills. Our customers are unhappy. They want 30-day readings. I think this is going to be a very important thing to make them happy. It just makes a big difference. Estimations are confusing, and they don't get it. And it'll make a big difference. The other thing I thought too is, everybody's mentioned it already, but it's the ability to, if you've got a leak or something's going on, you're not home, people are away. We hear it all the time. They had no idea that something was left running, or someone left the outside hose on. The kids, parents had no idea, and you hear it. I hear it daily, many times a day. So from our standpoint, we are so excited for this opportunity. I think it's going to be good for the community. I really do. Unfortunately, everybody said everything already, so I don't have anything new to tell you, but to repeat it. But we are looking forward to this.
Will this help the billing, Dean, as far as for the consumer? I get that call all the time. We don't get our water bill until the 5th or 8th day of the month.
It won't impact the company that we contract with to print and mail out our bills.
Mm-hmm.
It still takes, when they come in the mail, 3 days or so for that to occur. We'll upload the reads like we do currently, and we'll generate and it'll calculate the bills, the monthly bills, and that'll get transmitted to our printer, and they'll print them out and mail them out. Hopefully over time, if we can engage more of our citizens to use this online portal, we could maybe get access and possibly start down this path of emailing bills out to our customers. Not only does that get it to them quicker, but it save us a lot of money and bill printing and mailing too.
Okay, and thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
I have a question for you two gentlemen as far as time element. Once the program is implemented, how many of the 8,000 will be done in 30 days, 60 days?
Mike, if you want to, we have Mike from Keystone Installations here. He's looking at doing about several hundred a day, correct?
Yeah, Mike Petrone from Keystone Utility Systems, 12940 Positano Circle, Naples, Florida.
Really warm.
Don't shoot the messenger. Well, we're gonna gear up and go at the pace that we all decide. Of course, the 500 soft start will be a good testing ground, but we were looking at probably 90 to 120 days. Our portion of the job is the outdoor meters, where Perry is going to take on the indoor meters, which take customer contact and a little bit more time. So we're looking at probably 90 to 120 days. That being said, we could easily go quicker or go slower. We'll see how it goes in the first few weeks after the soft start. So that'll really be up to you guys.
The outdoor meters aren't going to disturb the lawn, are they? They're just going to be.
No. So I think roughly 6,500 of of our portion of the contract, we're going to do what's called a retrofit. We're not going to disturb the meter or the water flow. We're not going to turn the wall off, nothing. We're going to take the register head off, and just like Perry was showing before, and attach the new hardware. So the customer, unless if they get the door tag that will be left on their door, or they see us there, they may not even know that we're there. And then about 1,000 or 1,100 of those outdoor pit meters, we're actually going to change the whole hardware. We're going to turn the water off, change the meter, and put the new radio on.
And they'll be advised the water being turned on.
Yeah. We knock on the door. Again, with outdoor meters, they will get an information letter, usually within reason about 2 weeks before. Some people don't open them, but they will be informed. When we get to the residence, we will knock on the door. If they're not home, we will continue with the procedure. There'll be a door tag with a phone number. God forbid they have any questions afterwards. But the whole meter change out usually takes about 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this will affect all the water customers, that's right.
Yes.
What will we do for a refusal of someone who says no?
Right, good question. We have discussed that at length. Right now, if we do get a person that decides they do not want it, we will wait until the end of the project and deal with those customers at that time. We are right now, our policy is there will not be an opt-out program, but we will take everything under consideration. And the people that do say we don't want it this time, we will honor their wishes and not install it. But at the end of the project, we will revisit the entire project with them and discuss their options at that time.
In discussing this question with the City of Maumee officials last week, they installed their system when? The last year?
2013.
Yeah, they still have 3 people who still haven't installed, and they're trying to work with them as much as they can to get them to, but ultimately, it's required for the residents to.
I thought we had always discussed there would be some sort of option.
The option right now that Maumee uses and we're under consideration is that the customers would be charged a monthly bill for us to go out there and physically read their meter.
Okay, right, so that isn't opt-out.
That it's under consideration. It has not been formally approved by city manager's office or utility office. We will, like I said, at the end of the project, we'll take, if we have 6 or if we have 60 customers at the end, we'll review the options at that time.
Basically putting them on a hold list
Right.
until we're done to see where we're at.
Okay. I'm growing more uncomfortable with some of the details as they're coming out, but because I feel like they're changing from what we had discussed, which was we would have an opt-out program.
I think we've always said that we would take it. We never said yes or no. We would say right now, we've always talked about there would not be an opt-out program, but we will take it under consideration once we see the number of people that do not want the My Note installed.
Okay.
I mean, I've had some, just go back a little bit, and I think Lee's here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we sent out a city newsletter, and this information was in there that the project was going on. And to date, I've had about 5 phone calls regarding it, and it was more an information type thing of where this was going to be installed. Was it going to be in the house, on the outside of the house, or where? And I was, easily, explain that if you had a pit outside, it would be, in that pit. If you had a meter that was inside the house, the device would actually be located outside your house, outside the wall. Those were most of the questions.
So right now, Brad, what you're saying is if somebody for some reason says, I don't want to have anything to do with this, they're not going to have to at this point install, but
correct.
Then at the end of the project, which is 18 to 24 months from now, we'll evaluate with, I guess, ultimately with council to decide, well, we've got 10 customers
Right.
who have nothing to do with this, and here are the reasons. And I guess it'd be up to us to decide ultimately, do you allow them to pay an additional fee per month, or do you require them to tie in? And I think that's what the city of Maumee is doing right now. So,
And that's always been
our desire is to have this universal throughout the city. But if there might be a few folks out there who said, no, I don't want to have anything to do with that. And I think at this point in the project, honor their wishes, but at some point at the end of the project, X number of accounts have decided they don't want to do it for these reasons, and I guess we'd have to evaluate it and decide you just charge them more per month, and
So there won't be for the next, however many, 18 to 24 months, there won't be an extra fee.
correct. Well, they wouldn't be, I guess if they say, I don't want anything to do with it, we're not gonna tie them in at this point, right?
And obviously, we would have to, during the process, obviously collect those reads until, at the end of the project, decide ultimately whether we're going to have them we would put the My Note on, or like Tom said, charge an extra fee for that. So we still would have to go out and read that meter. Nothing would change. We'd use the wand on the hockey puck or on the pit and go from there. And then, like I said, hopefully, like with Maumee, I think they had around 6,500 or so. So they've got, at this time,
Three.
Tom, three that did.
Still haven't installed, and they're trying to work with these customers through that process. And
What were the reasons in Maumee why they didn't want?
Tom,
I'm not sure.
We didn't.
what it was, whether it was the, concern of security, something. I mean, these things have come up before. I think we had discussed this 2 or 3 years ago, Lisa, when you had initially brought it up with some concerns. And I think the technology is advanced. I think it's a good team, but obviously, and I think it's beneficial to the customers, but there might be folks for whatever reason who just don't feel that way. And we'll just have to evaluate that at the end of that project cycle and decide, how do you want to handle these?
Just out of curiosity, so these are being obviously installed on all new home construction then going forward.
Yes, sir.
So are the homeowners at that time then notified that this system is in their house, and
when they sign up for service, they'll
Okay.
be notified at that time that it's an EMI system, and they'll have these opportunities to take advantage of as part of this system.
And all new homes are outside the house, inside the pit.
We'll have to develop, even with not new homes, people transition, somebody moves into an existing house. I think we'll have a communication piece that'll make them aware of not just that it's there, but here's what you can do with the system.
And then for multi-families, where there's one metering system, does that device change at all?
We do have a few homes that have one stop outside. Okay, so we have no ability, if one customer doesn't pay, we can't shut the other one that did pay off. Usually somebody's upset in that situation, but you would still, nothing there would change. We'd still have 2 meters inside. So where we have master meters, that master meter would have a radio unit on it. That master meter bill would go to whatever property management company is taking care of that, and then that's divvied up through sub-metering, or they split the bill 50 ways or whatever it is for that apartment complex. But if we have a duplex and we currently have 2 meters in that duplex, and we're allowing the customer to sign up for water in that duplex, that it would still stay the same way.
When you have a master meter, though, it could not tell where a leak was, though.
Yeah, you could tell that, like with the master meter, I'll give a couple examples. Over west of town on William Street, where the new Carson Farms stuff is at, each one of those buildings has its own meter or master meter. So that's master meter building by building.
Okay.
But like with Troy Farms Apartments behind Kroger's, they have a large meter, compound meter. It's 3-inch, and the other meter is an 8-inch. Both of those would have radios on them. And yes, in that case, when it goes through that meter, all you have is that you have a leak somewhere. Now, again, I've been working with Mr. Warner out at Warner Metal Works, he has a problem right now. And it's a very small problem, but he's been trying to collect data midnight, 1 o'clock, just like when I was working with the fairgrounds. I'd have to go up there midnight, 1 o'clock, take readings when nobody's up there using water, so you could see what that leak potential was, and then distribute that over that time frame. So it's intensive that way. So with having that out of the hydrant, maybe their hydrants are leaking in there, or it could be a toilet. But at least now you can start shutting valves off and looking for those areas and know that when that meter, there's leak detection detector on that, when it stops moving, you kind of start narrowing it down. Same thing happened out at Trillium. We kind of helped them narrow that down too. And then once we kind of narrowed it down, turning valves and doing other things, that we knew that there was an actual leak. That's usually the thing. Is it a leak or is it just usage? Then they can get a company to come in and start listening for it. Now, instead of they have the company listen to their whole facility, we were able to help them narrow it down to these 2 areas in their subdivision or inside those condos. And they were able to find where the leak was, and it actually was a snap fitting coming off one of the services. But it takes sometimes weeks to go out there and collect information so you can tell what's going on.
Any other questions?
Well, I appreciate this opportunity to give council, what our plan is to implement this. We're very excited about this. We're ready to move forward. We know for sure that it's going to be a great benefit to the city and its residents, and we hope in turn that city council provides recommendations to city manager to award the contract. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming and educating us. I got my highest water bill ever on Saturday. I said, gosh, I wish that thing was already here.
Yeah, there's really no formal action. This item, as I indicated to you in my biweekly report a few months ago, I wanted to, before we went ahead with the contract execution, that I wanted to make sure council had an overview of how the implementation was going to work. And I'm very appreciative of your time tonight to listen, and I think just become better informed and educated about the system, so that you can provide that information to your constituents. So I'll be moving ahead with the contract execution, and then we will follow up with council individually and as a group with information that you can provide to your constituents. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 10 is second reading of ordinance 16-33. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 16-33, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a cooperative agreement with Delaware County for the resurfacing of Warrensburg Road.
Good evening, Mr. Freno.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I presented this at the last meeting. Just to remind you, it's a $44,648 cooperation project with Delaware County Engineer's Office to resurface Warrensburg Road. Our part is roughly 9% of the project. And with your approval, we'll sign an agreement and the county will execute that project on behalf of the city, that portion of it. I can answer any additional questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, we'd recommend adoption.
Wish the council.
Suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 16-33.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Halligan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr? Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Oh, okay.
So move for approval on 16-33.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Halligan. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Item 11 is second reading of ordinance 16-34. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 16-34. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into cooperative agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation to upgrade crosswalks, install pedestrian countdown signals, as well as rectangular rapid flashing beacons at various locations throughout the city.
Thank you. Mr. Bruno?
Yes, again, I presented this issue at the last meeting. It's a $58,840 project on behalf of the state and MORPC through their systematic safety improvements, which provides the funds and the expertise, design, and installation to the city to upgrade 9 intersections with countdown timers. We see those in a few locations in town. This will provide countdown timers at full intersections at 9 locations in town at this point. I can ask or answer any additional questions.
You can ask any questions? Go ahead, ask us.
The rapid flashing beacons, where are they going to be?
That's a good question. We put that language in there. The $58,000 is our initial award. If there's additional funds available, phase 2 in this project, it's possible we could get additional countdown timers or rapid flashing beacons at critical pedestrian intersections. So what's being approved tonight allows that to happen should that occur. And if there are additional funds, we'll bring that information back to council too to know what locations could be upgraded with those. But typically you'd see those at a major pedestrian crossing, likely sometimes not always an intersection, what we call a mid-block crossing.
Does this do anything for the audible that was requested?
No, it does not. This is strictly the countdown timers.
Is there any funding available for the audible?
At this point, talk with the city manager, there is not. It's a $31,000 estimate for the project. And I believe Mr. Homan talked with the requester, indicated we don't have the funds at this point. Yeah. We would intend to add that into the budget this fall for 2017 to be able to do that full installation.
I'm sorry, there's no grants available for that?
No, there's no grants that we've looked at, a couple different sources, and that's not an eligible project at this point with the sources we do have. We are still looking, but we haven't found funding for that.
Okay. We can't find $31,000 in a budget somewhere?
Well, I guess we could if we had to. I did speak with the folks who had requested it, and they understood the city situation. They said it's not critical at this point, given the age of the child who has who they've made the request on behalf of. I think in the next couple of years is when they were looking to hopefully have that installation made at Sandusky and William Street as a service. But it just underscores, I mean, the cost of technology, $31,000. You have to go in and actually take out install new.
A lot of the bricks have to come up, the sub base has to come up, concrete, a lot of underground installation to make it happen. So that's where most of your expense is.
I mean, it doesn't seem like, $31,000 in our big budget, but we've got things that we didn't put into the budget this year, maintenance items for striping and things like that. So that's the balance. So
How many, maybe the chief can look into this for us to see how many accidents we have at that corner. It's so critical anyways. We're replacing the bricks, or we're fixing most of the bricks anyways. So why don't we look at getting it fixed regardless of what this person requested, if we could add safety to that corner?
That is under the MORPC pedestrian annual crash.
So then in that case, I think we should look for that $31,000 and get it done.
Just while we're doing it, why not do it all at once?
Yeah.
Well, we're not.
This would be a separate project,
Right, I understand
but
that.
there would be installations going on downtown for upgrades. So if what I hear you saying is we're upgrading some intersections, do we go ahead and upgrade separate funds? We'd probably have to do a supplemental to fund that project, directly hire a contractor to make that project happen.
That's what would be required if you were agreeable to that.
Well, I can't see that this audio will just help this one person. I think it would help anybody going across that street if they're not paying attention, if they're texting even though they shouldn't be. I think it would help everybody and add safety to it. So I don't I just think we should move forward with it, in my opinion. I don't know what the rest of the council thinks, but.
I think we should too, and I think that we should just flip-flop whatever. I mean, if it was going to be added to the budget in 17, can't we just can we make a strategic?
It wasn't just going to be added, but it's $31,000. I think what you're saying is if you're interested in doing it now, we could just do it. We could do a supplemental appropriation and appropriate the dollars and get it done. If that's
I
your
would be in
interest.
favor of that.
What about the rest of council?
I mean, we have a finance committee meeting set up.
Yeah, I think we could put it on for the finance committee meeting and review it and see what we think. Right now, I'd be questionable without a supplemental this time of year due to the situation we're going to have in the fall, spending money like that. If we can budget it in 17, that would be more appropriate for us to do it.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Rohr? Okay.
Fine with moving it to finance committee. So.
Mr. Jones, what do you think?
If we can do it now, let's see it does now.
Okay. Let's let finance, you have the meeting the 23rd,
23rd.
and then let's discuss it again that evening. Okay.
What are the legal requirements when a request like that has been made? Is there a timeline for the city to?
Mrs. Walker?
I'm not sure.
I thought they told us when they came that we basically had to.
There are regulations, federal regulations that require ADA improvements everywhere we are, door handles, stairs, and these things are included. It's just, there's a lot of infrastructure that is not compliant, ramps, sidewalks, and we try to, when a citizen requests something, we try to make those improvements. It's just that this level of improvement is significantly higher, but in terms of what our requirements are, there is a request made for it, and there are guidelines, federal guidelines, to make sure our infrastructure meets ADA regulations.
Yeah, I mean, I touch base with the family, and I mostly my primary intention was to let them know we heard the request. We didn't, unfortunately, have it in the budget this year. Would there be an issue? Didn't appear to be, but however, I mean, if there's additional benefits, I think, that are pointed out here, because it is a high volume accident intersection, then we can review those options with the Finance Committee in 2 weeks, and they can come back to you with a recommendation.
Okay. All right, what is the wish of council on ordinance 16-34?
I move we suspend the rules on 3 readings on 1634.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for the adoption of 1634 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 12 is second reading of ordinance 16-38. Elaine, if you'll please read this on the record.
Ordinance number 16-38, an ordinance amending the employment agreement with the city manager.
Mr. Shulman?
Nothing new to add from last time, except I want to point out that there was a typo that I didn't get changed in the packet, changing the word accord to a forward or a forward to accord. I got to fix that. So that change has not been made yet. This is the same version that was in it, but substantively, nothing new unless you have any questions.
Any questions? We're going to take this for 3 readings, right?
That's my recommendation, just based on our guidelines for ordinance readings, and we built that in, but you certainly are more than welcome to not do that.
Okay. And item 13 is consideration of resolution 16-19.
Resolution number 16-19, a resolution accepting the award on unresolved issues pertaining to the settlement of a collective bargaining agreement between the International Association of Firefighters, the IAFF, Local 606, and the City of Delaware.
Mr. Shulman?
As you recall, the city and the IAFF went through the collective bargaining process. We got a decision from the arbitrator. I believe I can hopefully speak for both sides, and that we are pretty happy with the result, both the city and the firefighters. We wrote a joint release, actually, saying we're happy to work together, and we think both sides think it was a fair decision. Technically, that decision is binding, so we don't have to vote on it. However, in the past, we have voted on it just to create a clear record as to why the contract is adopted. So I put it on the agenda tonight, like we did last time. But if you didn't want to vote on it, it still is our contract. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
It is just a resolution.
So what's the wish of council?
Move for the adoption of resolution 1619.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. DeGenova, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 14, consideration of ordinance number 16-39. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 16-39. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Attorney General's office to continue providing national web check background check services.
Thank you. Hello again.
Good evening again. Madam Mayor, members of council, for consideration is an ordinance that would authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Attorney General's office that would allow the police department to continue providing the national web check background check services. Say that 3 times.
Yeah.
This is a program we've been doing since 2010. We used to do the inked fingerprints for a long time, and years ago, the Attorney General stopped taking those inked fingerprints for background checks from the public. So people come in, they want to, be in certain sales positions or adoptions or work with children. They have to have a background check from the Attorney General or the FBI. So we had to transition to the web check, which is basically computerized fingerprint background check service. So we have that machine in our lobby. We've had that since 2010. This is just a continuation of that agreement.
Any questions?
Ready to go.
Mr. Council? Anybody?
You good with this tonight?
Yes.
Okay, I'll move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance number 16-39.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
And I move for approval of ordinance 16-39.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova? Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank
Thank you.
And item 15 is ordinance 16-40. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 16-40. An ordinance approving a final subdivision plat for Millbrook Section 2 consisting of 40 single-family lots on 10.26 acres zoned R3, one-family residential district, located on Ridgefield Drive and Elliott Road.
Thank you. Mr. Effa?
Madam Mayor, members of council, just one note on the caption of this ordinance, and I think it's just an editorial change, but the property is zoned R3 PUD. It's part of the large Willowbrook Planned Unit Development Overlay District. So just for point of clarification, I don't think it is a reason to hold up this case tonight or change any of the discussion, but this would be for the Section 2, the final section of the Millbrook development. Located here off of Cobblestone Drive and just south of, here's the zoning we just discussed, R3 PUD, the aerial photograph. And while we're here, I want to point out to you, if I can get the hand to work here, that this is Carson Farms Park, and there's a bike path that comes through to the Houck Road bike path and comes through the northern portion of this development. And the bike path is there with some landscaping as part of this subdivision section. This would be an HOA control, and maintained by the HOA, but with access dedicated for the public to be able to go across the bike path. So it's just a little easier to see that on the aerial photograph than any other exhibit, such as this one, which is probably pretty impossible to see even at the scale of these screens, but these are the 40 lots for the Millbrook subdivision on approximately 10 acres. They comply in all respects with engineering and zoning requirements and would complete this section of the Millbrook development. Your planning commission did recommend approval unanimously. I should also point out that in your ordinance there is a number 9 item of condition. The planning commission had some lengthy discussion at its meeting over landscaping that is under Medrock controls, a Medrock subdivision. We discussed at length what Medrock is, who is in control of Medrock, et cetera,
But the ninth item really relates to ensuring that mowing and landscaping, including mulching, weeding, and painting of the fence at the southwest corner and William, and going down William and down Houck in particular, but also through the whole Houck Road corridor is maintained. And so that's what that condition is about as well. Again, staff recommends approval of this final subdivision section, as does Planning Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Mr. Sabatino is here tonight representing Medrock.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
If you'll please give us your name and address for the record.
Ron Sabatino, 3895 Stone Ridge Lane. I've been a stakeholder in our city for nearly 30 years. I don't have any questions, but I would like to just make one bit of commentary. And that is, many other jurisdictions would have chosen not to put us through a 2.5-year process on this division that was already approved previously and approved by this council or the previous council previously, but for a change in Ohio's stormwater laws, which simply required a minor change to the stormwater pond. We've had similar changes from older plats, including in your neighbor, the Delaware County, in which such a change was done administratively, an as-built survey and calculations were submitted. But here, administration staff required us to hire a new engineer, spend another $50,000 in redesigning and replatting the entire subdivision with a new engineer. And 2.5 years later, rather than administratively with an as-built of the engineering plans with storm calculations, which we've done in Delaware County and other places, we are here before you today. I think those processes are unnecessary. Thank you.
Any comments?
What's our rationale for doing that, for the long process?
Joe, do you want to speak to the engineering issue? I think that's what he's really raising.
I can't speak to why things would be replatted. No knowledge of that. And regarding keeping current with stormwater regulations, we're required to make sure all development follows stormwater regulations, and as they change, we're required to enforce those as well. There's a number of ways those can be done, and we could do those simply by accepting an engineer's recalculation. I can't personally say I wasn't involved in the re-review of those, whether or not it would affect setbacks, size of ponds, and things like that. That would be a reason to potentially hold up an approval to make sure it's not having a negative impact on how a property was laid out. Again, what a level of process it goes through outside engineering for reviews and going back through planning commissions and back to your body versus administrative is partly wrapped up in how our code handles these things. When a project sits so long for so many years without action on it, sometimes it has to come back that way because that's how our code's written. So we're certainly capable of doing administrative approvals from both David's level and my level. But we also do have code to follow in certain cases. So, but in terms of stormwater, we just want to make sure we follow current EPA regulations. That we're enforcing the regulations fairly across the board throughout the city.
In terms of the subdivision process, this had expired from a final development plat perspective. So it simply had to be, in this case, reauthorized. Sometimes when they expire, they don't come back, or they come back in different forms.
How long is it on the books before it expires?
It's a year typically.
Just 1 year, okay.
Depends on exactly the project and the requirements of the project, but typically 12 months.
We normally would give an extension if the contractor asked for it. I don't know in this case whether he asked for an extension.
Well, you'll see The next series of cases related to Stockdale, a request for an extension for development that has not begun yet. This obviously had begun already in phase 1, but phase 2 had not begun.
I'd like to point out also to council that because this had to come back for reapproval, it was the only way that we got a condition added that landscaping that was put in 8 years ago would actually, for the first time in 8 years, be maintained by the developer. If you go out there, I encourage you to take a ride out there today. You'll find grass that's as tall as your knees. This has been the source of complaint in my ward for years and years and years and years. But for this coming back before us and being able to add that condition, hopefully now it will be solved. Hopefully.
If I might readdress council, there are no code violations today or last year that exist in this community. And whether there's a code violation that hasn't been cited, there are no code violations. So I challenge the accuracy of Councilman Kellner's statement. The grass has not yet been cut, but there's not a code violation. And her false statement that it's not been maintained in 8 years is completely incorrect.
Do we have the photos?
I don't have them on here, I'm sorry.
I stand by what I said.
I'm sorry.
I live there. I saw it today. The grass is up over my knees.
Our commitment to the city is the same, whether you live in the neighborhood or not.
Correct. And I'm advocating for everyone who lives in that neighborhood. It has nothing to do with where I live.
There are no code violations in that subdivision today.
Okay.
Other than, maybe there's something in the house.
Okay.
Okay, what is the wish of council? On ordinance 16-40.
I'd like to take it to another reading.
Why?
Well, don't we take things to more than one reading?
Sometimes. Something like this has been
Plats you.
2.5 years.
2.5 years.
I don't really see we can take any more readings. We're not gonna have a public hearing anymore.
Okay.
I would move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 16-40.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. DeGenova. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
No.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of ordinance 16-40.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. DeGenova. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Just one correction. There's a typo in the name of the road.
Yes.
It's Ellicott.
It's Ellicott.
With a C,
Yes.
correct?
That's correct.
Not Elliott.
Yes.
Oh.
We'll correct that.
Okay. Item 16 is consideration of ordinance 16-41. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
They can do both.
And you can do 16 and 17. I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Ordinance number 16-41, an ordinance approving an extension to the final development plan for Phase 1 of Stockdale Farm subdivision consisting of 60 single-family lots on 44.74 acres located at the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollock Roads and zoned R2 PMU, one family residential with a planned mixed-use overlay district. Ordinance number 16-42. An ordinance approving an extension to the final subdivision plat for Phase 1 of Stockdale Farm subdivision consisting of 60 single-family lots on 44.74 acres located at the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollocks Road and zoned R2 PMU, one family residential with a planned mixed-use overlay district.
Thank you. Mr. Affleck?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is for the extension of both the plan and the plat for Stockdale Farms Phase 1, which is also set to expire here as no construction has begun on this site. although there has been some engineering work completed. The engineering plans remain incomplete at this time. Of course, those also have to be reviewed by the county for the Bromwell Road improvements, as you might recall from the original approvals here. This is Stockdale Farms at Bromwell and Pollock Roads. Outlined in orange is the approximate area of Phase 1. The zoning is as read by the clerk, R2, Planned Mixed Use Overlay District, with a specific text and plan that goes with that has been approved by you. The aerial photograph, should we need it, again showing the approximate location for Phase 1. And this was the approved preliminary development plan and plat. Just to remind us all of the complete subdivision, about 320 single-family units on 158 acres have been approved on this site, with Phase 1 again shown approximately in green. And here you can see a color version of it with the highlighted color really being Phase 1 and the 60 lots here in the southwest corner of the subdivision. Your planning commission did recommend unanimously extension of this plan and plat, both for a one-year period of time. We haven't had an extension in a while, but several years ago, the direction from both planning and council was to recommend no longer than one-year extensions. And so that's what we recommended as staff. That's what your planning commission is recommending to you. The applicant has requested a 2-year extension, just to be clear with what their request was. So Mr. Inks is here to represent, I presume, the applicant this evening, so he may be able to fill in some of the details. But there are quite a lot of engineering details and costs in particular associated with getting utilities to this particular subdivision, as well as roadway infrastructure costs that are not unlike any other subdivision, except they're probably a little bit more complicated in this particular one as well. So staff recommends approval, as does your planning commission. Happy to answer questions that you might have.
How long has Stockdale owned that property, Dave?
Excuse me, say that again.
How long have they owned the property?
Mark would probably be better able to answer that. I can tell you that zoning for the property began before I got here, approximately 11 years ago.
I was gonna say it's been a while.
The plan has changed, I think, at least 3, maybe 4 times in my tenure here. Some of those have been minor changes, and at least one of those has been a major change, where Bromwell Road was to be relocated through essentially the middle of this subdivision and go to a potential future bridge over the river. Those plans effectively have been scrapped, and the last preliminary plan and zoning text was this picture that you see here, with Bromwell Road not relocated and the subdivision essentially operating on its piece of ground by itself, but providing roadway connections, obviously, to the adjacent properties. Mark, I don't know if you can fill in any of those.
Before you start, will you please give us your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Mark Inks, address 17 East Brickell, Columbus 43215.
Thank you.
I think the current ownership group has been about 3 years. There was several different investors involved at one time, but current ownership's about 3 years. We are currently working with several, I guess what we would call end users, to sell the property to, because of some of the offsite improvements that are required. It really doesn't make sense financial sense to build it and then try and sell it at a market rate. So an end user who does their own development can probably do a lot better with it than we can. So that's the reason we asked for the extension. We're currently talking to 2 people.
And so just to clarify, this is a 1-year or 2-year?
What's in your ordinance is a 1-year extension as recommended by both staff and planning commission. The applicant has requested a 2-year. So in the past, what we've done is we've allowed the applicant to plead their case to us, the staff, and to planning commission, and then also to city council. So there's a lot of pleadings going on, but I suppose you could plead it again, but judged by the faces, I think they're looking at 1 year. Would be my.
Well, I was going to comment on that because I was involved in that 1-year extensions, and if I approve it tonight for 1 year, don't come back next year and want another year, because I won't approve it. It's a 1-year extension one time.
So you're looking at home builders?
Yeah, we're talking to two different home builders. It just, with the offsite expense, you simply can't make money. You can't develop it and make money at it. You have to use it yourself. Simple.
I believe also that's in the Olentangy School District.
It is. Yeah. Yep.
Planning Commission had a lengthy discussion about this and didn't really find a reason to deny this request. Basically because it makes the property marketable as it is with a plan, and without a plan, completely not marketable.
Yeah.
So if we don't approve it, we're pretty much ensuring that this property will be very, very difficult to sell. So
And
we
the
couldn't really-
zoning will remain in place. Really
I have
regardless.
no disagreements on that. I'm not going to give them another extension. If we say 1 year, then they've got 1 year, they better do something about it.
They're working on it.
Okay, any other questions? Wish to council on ordinance 16-41.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 16-41.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move for approval of 16-41.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. And on item 17, is there a motion for that one?
I move we suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 16-42.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of 16-42.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Good luck. And item 18 is consideration of ordinance 16-43. And if you please read this for the record.
Ordinance number 16-43. An ordinance approving the sale of a Public Utilities Department 1988 Mack concrete truck and a Public Works Department 2006 Marathon HMT HOT mixed transporter that have been or will be replaced with newer models and are no longer needed for use by the city.
Thank you. Mr. Farina?
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, our code requires council authorization to dispose of any equipment that could be valued or selling over $5,000, although the value of both pieces of equipment is at $4,000. Joe Bullis, who basically takes care of our gov deals, he's predicting that one or both may go over $5,000 in bidding, in which case we need to have this in place. Both have passed their useful service life.
Any questions?
Recommend your approval.
Move we suspend the rules on ordinance 1643.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the adoption of 1643 as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Mr. DeGenova, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. DeGenova?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 19 is city manager's report.
Yes, a couple of things. A real positive note. First Friday was a success from a weather. The theme was, it was a great theme that evening. Moving Delaware forward, we had a booth there. We got a lot of very positive feedback from the community, and that will lead into the open house that we have scheduled this Wednesday at the library. I left at your place a packet of information that has the information regarding frequently asked questions, the open house is scheduled. So if you need additional information, please let us know, and we'll be in touch with you about assisting us on the future First Fridays. I'd like to have some staff members there and council members Mayor Riggle was able to be there, and it was a real, as they say, a real success. So thanks. The EMS meeting at the county today, Councilman Hellinger was there, myself, and Chief Donahue. There was some good discussion with the county commissioners regarding the current EMS system and how it's funded and how it's the service itself. There will be continued discussion. Next Monday, the EMS department will kind of provide their perspective on the program and how it's funded. But I think the commissioners are willing to entertain some possible changes. So we'll see what happens in the next few months. And successful parking meetings last week that I know a number of you were a part of. We got very good feedback from the public and stakeholders regarding the committee's work, as well as the consultant that was hired. Got a lot of positive comments. So that's what I have. I'll be out of the office picking my son up at college on Friday. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Okay. Council comments. Mr. Jones?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple. I don't want to steal your thunder, anybody else's. You mentioned the dog park. I wasn't there for the ribbon cutting, but I was there yesterday, and it was fantastic.
Beautiful.
And it was packed,
Yeah.
full of people. Not on the small dog side where I was, but on the big dog side. But the bricks for the vet, apparently I missed the deadline, so, which was the 6th.
There's a grace period.
Is there a grace period, or did you have to have them in by the 6th in order to have them installed by the time of the 30th? But you could still get bricks after the fact installed.
We have to buy 100 of them at a time.
Okay, so but if you do it after if you've missed the deadline, when do you, if somebody buys a brick in June, how soon do they get their brick put in?
Which we're going to try to have the minimum, we have to have 150 bricks in order to pay the minimum service charge. And so we are going to try to wait till we get 150 bricks, but we're going to just see how the bricks sell.
Where are we at now on count, do you know?
Well, we're going to pay extra to get this first round installed.
We had over 50 the other day.
We have 60, we sold 60. So we're going to pay more just because it's kind of like the first push. And we think that, what we hope happens is that once people see them and how nice they look, that that'll motivate them.
So if a resident happened to miss the deadline and still wanted to get in time for the 30th, could they still do that?
Mm-hmm.
They could? Sure. I'll pass that along.
Thank you.
The last thing off going back a topic, but with this weed thing is, I just Councilwoman Keller showed me a couple pictures, and I guess I'm stunned that there isn't a code violation on weeds that big. Because if it was a residential neighborhood, the city would be all over that. But it's another discussion. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
Is this the thing I don't know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I would like to make an official code enforcement violation complaint for the empty lots at the entrance to Millbrook, Adelaide, and along Cobblestone, because I know there's a code violation, because I'm not very tall, and so I know when I'm standing next to them.
We're in process of investigating those, and we'll issue notices as appropriate. They just haven't been issued as of this evening.
Sure. So I do feel like it is unprecedented that we would have to add a condition to a development plan asking someone to mow grass, mulch flower beds. And I think that part of the anger was there was a very pointed newspaper article, and it is what it is. The pictures spoke for themselves. And so if I had any kind of pull whatsoever, I wouldn't have been complaining about it for 8 years straight. So just throw that out there. But I did receive actually some emails from people who live in the area that said, people I've never heard from before, saying, we read the article, thank you, it looks horrible. The area looks horrible. So I'm not the only one who's noticed for all these years. So hopefully now it gets taken care of, or no housing permits will be issued for that section.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. DeGenova?
Dave, London and Liberty Road, that gas station in that building, is there anything we can do on that sitting empty?
Oh, the retail center there?
Killed house.
Those weeds are so crazy too.
Yes.
We've actually, today or within the or late last week, we did issue notices. We have issued notices to those, we issued notice to our contractor after the violations weren't cleared up to go ahead and mow those locations. It's right away in one and it's basically a field now.
Was there any kind of communication as to what they're gonna do with that property? I know they don't have anything.
None.
They've got some code violations too, that they, when they built the building.
There are still a couple of outstanding items that we actually turned over to the then city prosecutor and then city attorney that I don't know what happened to those. But obviously,
I can follow it up with Sean Hughes as
Yeah, I
well.
just think that property.
It's a nice property. It's unfortunate. It was an investment that didn't work out.
Hey,
Which one is this?
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Rourke? Nothing? Mr. Hellinger?
Just one thing, I took advantage of the chief's opportunity to attend the Feel the Heat out at the Ohio Fire Academy last Saturday, and I wholly concur with Tom's recommendation in his email that everyone should take advantage of that. It was really a wonderful experience. It gives you a good kind of basic understanding of what the fire services do, and you know, it's kind of like every small boy's dream to be a fireman. So, you know, for a couple hours, you get to be a fireman.
Just boys?
Well, also girls. and actually, there were several very small women that were there. I was surprised that oxygen tanks were almost as big as they were.
They give you a red hat?
No, I didn't get the red hat, but I did see the chief has a whole bunch of them back there outside.
If there's some pictures, we can get those to Lee. You already pictures. Yeah, that's good.
So you can offer that class again?
Every year.
We do that.
Once a year?
Once a year.
Yeah.
Once a year.
It is worth it.
Okay.
And we'll get some notice out for next year's.
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Hellinger?
No, that's it.
Mr. Schaefer?
Just to follow up on the question I asked regarding that development, I don't know anything about the details of that one, but as you know, Tom and I and Dave and several members of staff have been working with BIA for several years. And the goal is there's certain things that we have to do to ensure the quality of our developments. But on the same token, if there's ways that we can make improvements to speed the process along, I think it's good for the developer and good for us. So I just want to make sure that we're continuing to look at all the ways we can improve the process without sacrificing anything in terms of the quality of the development. So
Okay.
that's all I have. Thank you.
I always have to go last night. Everyone else steals my thunder, but I was just amazed Friday night how positive with the maps that we had, how positive comments, and people said, how soon can you get started? Do I get to vote on this? I want to support it. So I was really, really happy. I think staff's done a great job with the maps, trying to explain things, and it was just really nice evening. And the dog park, I was so disappointed that the rest of you weren't there with your dogs, because I think we all have dogs.
I have been committed.
Yeah.
Went the next day though, and it was still packed.
Well, my little ornery one was trying to get from the little dogs to the big dogs, and he weighs like 4 pounds. And I thought it was hilarious, but he wanted to go play with that Great Dane. But it was just really positive, so.
A question on the dog park, are those fire hydrants, are those like just decoration or are those?
Correct. That was an added touch by one of our parks employees who saw some old fire hydrants that were going to be tossed out and decided, let's put them to use.
Staff did a great job putting that whole together, so thank you to Jackie and Michelle for doing that. Do we have any regulations when they take the dogs out there? Do they have to have all their shots? Is there anybody that's going to check anything? What are
All the rules are posted there. And actually,
But no one's going to check.
no, not officially. I mean, the county dog ward was there because there might be occasions where they have to be called, and our community relations officer was there as well. It's going to be on their routes.
Okay, so people ask me.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. With that, I look for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, and we're adjourned at 8:48.